What is going on, everybody? This is Jordan here, the Kickback, as I like to call it. I mean, shout out to Caleb. He came up with this name. He's my social media guy. And yeah, we're really just, well, really what I'm doing is interviewing people that I like right now. That's all I know, that this is what this is. So if you're getting interviewed, it means I like you. So congratulations, Sean. It means I like you. And we're
I
doing this
made it.
interview thing. You did. So this is my friend Sean. Sean, man, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
One of the best things is that I know Jordan Francis, so I just want to throw that out there. Also, I've seen up close, personal, him ministering to high school students in my community. A huge privilege to see him at local high schools and how he is able to just connect with where they're at, present the gospel, be very real. With them. So that's a little bit of it. Yeah, for sure. I think the ministry that he's had, I've been at, in a moment I'll say what I've done, but I've been at this for a really long time. I've seen very few things be innovative and connect with kids where they're at in a way that is gospel centered and relational and connected. And so anytime that Jordan is up to something, I want to know what's going on. So I've been privileged to see you do that here in Phoenix and from afar, kind of watching. And the resources that you create are just fantastic. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I I work for Young Life full time. Done that for 25 years. I've been a leader for 30 plus or something like that. I teach theology at Grand Canyon University. Been doing that for like 15 years. I got a family, so beautiful wife Erin. Got 3 kids that are now I'm empty nesters. We're empty nesters, so our house is kind of a little quieter these days. I have, yeah. But then we just like try to travel and go see them. So we miss them. But yeah, there's good things about it all. And then I've been involved in youth ministry for a long time, even outside of Young Life with my church, different church youth groups, college groups, things like that. And then I've worked on various like writing projects and things like that. I coach high school basketball at the same school for 25 years. We just had our banquet on Tuesday night, so that was nice. Like to coach freshmen so I can get to know them for the next 3 or 4 years while they're in high school. And just been in the same place for a really long time. And that's kind of how the Lord's led me. And I'm very blessed to have a front row seat to a lot of good things. And a lot of hard things, both. Yeah.
I feel that. And bro, you being a little bit modest with you've wrote a couple things. You wrote multiple books, which we're going to get into. And you're writing a book right now on youth and family ministry. So I'm not going to let you get away with just acting like you ain't doing nothing. Just brushing over it. Like you don't have a doctor in front of your name, okay? We're not doing that.
Okay, yeah.
So gotta let everybody know.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when I introduce myself at GCU or at the seminary, I'll be like, here you might want to call me Dr. McGeever. Other places I might be called Coach. I also respond to like, hey, you, bro, whatever. So, but yeah, I guess depending on the audience, if they want to know, Dr. Sean McGeever, PhD, author of several books, etc. So yeah.
Cool. So, bro, tell me where it all started, man. How did you come to know Jesus?
Yeah. So my mom, my dad left when I was little. My mom grew up going to church, but didn't raise me in the church. She was busy doing the single mom life, and only child life was my side of the deal. So she was busy. She good person, talked about God sometimes, but it just wasn't a part of our life. She's a waitress, so she worked nights. So Sunday mornings were time for her to sleep in and catch up. In high school, one of my buddies in my junior year said, hey, do you want pizza? There's a youth leader, a young life leader, hand out pizza. Hey, come to this volleyball thing. Sure, I got nothing else to do. Went to that. It was kind of fun, kind of weird, all that at the same time. But the next week, when I came back, they're like, yeah, you should come back. My friend was like, I'm going. You want to go? Sure, I'll go. And they remembered my name. They asked me they remembered a couple things about like what what I was involved with the school, and in particular, like some men, like adult men leaders. Hey, Sean, how was that? How was your sports thing or whatever? And I didn't, in retrospect, I didn't realize how much I had been wanting that. And so the connection and the like interest and care that they had for me meant a lot. And to be honest, my friends are going, and so that was fun. And I just kept going to that. I went to Young Life, and then they had a Bible study. I went to that. My friends that went to Young Life had a church. They invited me to a youth group. I wanted to go to the weekend camp for Young Life. Couldn't afford it. Wasn't gonna ask my mom. My leaders are like, we'll make sure you go. Don't worry about the finances. And so I went, heard the gospel my junior year. It was all happening pretty quick. So I didn't they have a time at the end to say if you accepted Christ, and I didn't do that. I didn't say that, but in retrospect, certainly I had heard the gospel in the clearest way, and things changed. I wanted to start reading the Bible, and then all these Bible studies and being at church and stuff flipped. So yeah, that was in 93, 94. And then a year later, I had been going to the youth group and my Young Life group, and they started saying, hey, do you want to help out with these things? And I was a musician. I was a drummer. So I was playing in the youth group and at church on Sundays. And then not too long after that, they were starting to train me to be a leader my senior year. And then I got really active in that when I went to college and stayed, just kind of kept plugging away there. So yeah, that's how I met the Lord. And I also met my wife in high school. We're high school sweethearts. And it was really cool because I was really excited about the Lord, and she grew up in a great Christian family, but everything was pretty familiar for her. And so our friendship, which was really a neat one, because I had a lot of energy, but no wisdom or no knowledge. She was a little, she could use a little energy, for her walk and all that, but had a lot of wisdom. And so it was just a really great combination. And so I was really blessed to meet Erin at that point. And yeah, so much so that I was like, let's get married, 7 years later, but it took a while. So yeah, that's
So
it. And then,
what you're telling
yeah.
me is, if you're a young person and you want to get married and have kids, just join Young Life, get saved, meet your wife. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, in the midst of that, not only did I meet my wife, which is great, but the people I was around, I know that you're about equipping people, was they gave me a lot of opportunities, be faithful in little so you can be faithful in much. So hey, can you sweep afterward? Can you take out the trash? Can you, I was willing to do that because I was super thankful for all they were doing for me. And little by little, they kept giving me more, not only just giving me more to good work, but one of the things that was super helpful was the feedback loop. A lot of times, I remember the main guy that was discipling and training me, he would always give me this feedback loop, which was, here's 2 things you did well, and here's 1 thing you might think about doing different next time. It was like that. That was the ratio. It was 2 and 1. And it went, and here's 2 things that you did really well. In retrospect, I know he was making stuff up because I didn't do, I didn't he's being very kind with that, right? He's being super generous, I coach high school basketball, and sometimes I'm looking for, you have a great smile, they're digging deep, the best is ahead of you, you just got so much potential, So I think he would always find a couple of things to say nice, but he also, and this is the part that sometimes I'll be honest, I need to do more of, he would give one kind and also constructive piece of, if you do this again, here's a little suggestion that could help you. It was forward looking. It wasn't, to say you messed up. It was, if you get another opportunity, here's something that could make it even better. And that kind of posture, I was super, and I always liked it, because it was always constructive, and helpful and believing in my future. And I got a lot of that, especially in my college years. And those were the most formative years for me. And so I'm just really thankful for the discipleship and leadership development that happened kind of in the moment, that I got. Mm-hmm.
That's really good. That's really good. I think you can easily miss that as a youth leader, especially as you're just going about doing what you're doing and trying to serve students and trying to put the event on, trying to put the youth group on, trying to put the Young Life program on. You kind of forget about the opportunities to really engage and give students opportunities to engage too, to own to participate. I think this generation wants that more than ever, right? They want ownership in the thing. They don't just want to show up and observe the thing. They're not really super interested in that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's interesting to think about. Um, hmm. Man, so you have spent a lot of time in one place doing one thing. Talk to me about the value of that from your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to someone recently from another community who had something like that. And what did he say? Oh, this is what he said. It was a pastor who was having a hard time about taking a new call to move somewhere else. And he shared with me that he had been in the same community for a long. I think he had been there 20 years or something. And he said the thing that made it so hard for him to follow this new call, which he felt like he needed to do, but the thing that made it so difficult was that, especially relationally, he used the phrase like it's compounding interest. So, the way compounding interest is at first, it's pretty slow and, little by little, and you're like, man, this is taking a while. But, when you look at, how math works and like people's savings plans or, or even debt plans, it can go the other way, like you get caught up in credit cards or whatever. Whenever there's a lot of time and there's an interest rate on it, it's like a hockey stick eventually, right? Either for good or for bad.
Yep.
And like
Yeah,
that's what I've received a lot of, which is being in the same community for 25 years. There's like a compounding interest factor, especially relationally and trust and networking. And then also, some of the people that were teenagers 25 years ago are now parents or are business leaders or whatever it might be. And they're in places where they can really help or need help in different kinds of ways. And so that's neat because there's other resources. But then also I enjoy being a part of it because not only am I passionate about being with young people, even though I'm 49, the thing that gets me most fired up, to be honest, is like thinking about when my life changed with the Lord, which I was 16, 17, 18. So anytime I see a young man that's 16, 17, 18, I go, I've always got energy for that. Like I literally do. At the same time, as much as that excites me, and it does excite me, I also like the other layers of people that guys that I knew when they're in their teens, but now are, rather than being 17, they're 27 and 37. And being able to help them in those seasons. And so these other seasons of life are really special that I can meet up with guys that are just got married or now are, been married 10 years and different good things and challenging things. So like to get to see multiple eras of discipleship is a real blessing. Not only for what they can do, maybe they could host a meeting or chip in to help a kid go to camp. That's really nice and stuff, or credibility. But like to be a part of their lives in different seasons is really an honor. In fact, one of the things I talk about with middle school leaders is that if you want to do middle school ministry in our community, it's usually only 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. If you want to do middle school ministry, I'd really like you to sign up for 6 years of it. And I was like, here's the deal. A lot of your time in middle school ministry, especially with guys, but you're not going to see there's a chance that you might not see a lot of return on investment. Not that that's why we do it. We want to be faithful to the Lord and all. Yeah. But it's like, here's what happens. You're going to do a lot of pouring out and you're not going to be sure, like it might be less clear what the Lord's doing. However, if you stick with that and you hand them off to whatever's going on in high school and maybe you keep in touch, but be in the loop. And then like loop back with them when they're maybe a junior or a senior. Have them come talk to the junior high kids. Have them become a leader along your side. Start meeting up with them as they're transitioning, maybe to move on after whatever's going on with high school. Like do that. So I'll be like, actually, I want a bigger commitment from my junior high leaders than I do from my high school leaders. My high school leaders, I think you can see pretty quick fruit sometimes. Like me, I mean, I met the Lord within 6 months. And there's a big life change because I was 16, 17. There's a lot of stuff happening I had a lot of independence, autonomy. I had a lot of change coming to my way. There is a lot of change with a 13-year-old guy. But like for high school leaders, I'll ask them to make a 2 to 4 year commitment. But I'll be like, look, I really would, for junior high, I'd really love for you to make a longer commitment, because I think you're going to see, it'll help you see why God had you do junior high ministry clearer if you can stick with it longer. Yeah. Anyway,
It's
just a
really
thought.
good.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it in those terms. Like, the longer you're there, the more resources you have. Like, the better your ministry is going to get. Like, I even think about it in the context of local church, right? If I'm there for 10, 15, 20 years, I'm going to have more volunteers. I'm going to have more adult leaders. I'm going to have more people who are probably willing to invest because I invested in them. And it's going to give you the ability to, like, really create the thing that you really wanted to see 20 years ago, right? So you come in with all this vision as a young person, and like that uphill battle those first 4, 5, 6, 7 years is just, it's tough, right? But then you get over that and you continue to be there, and the things that you get to see as a consequence is like, it's almost like a reward, you know? That's really good, bro. Really good. So let me ask you this then. If that is true, then what are some things that you have learned? Because obviously you're a part of an organization that's been around for a really long time. There's obviously rules. There's things you have to do. There's things you shouldn't do. Like, what are the things that you've learned that have kept you in that same place for as long as you've been there? Because I'm sure there's been opportunities to leave. I'm sure there might have even been better opportunities, and you turned those down to stay. And so, like, what is it that kept you there? What have you learned that's helped you stay? That's allowed you to reap those benefits?
Yeah. Well, I'm very fortunate. Like, I live in a community that has a lot of resources. So a lot of it is out of my control, and I'm very blessed where I'm just very fortunate. So I can't, I need to just think not everyone has those kind of situations. So there's that. It has very little to do with me. But yeah. I mean, one thing that I'd say is everyone has a different viewing of calling and hearing from the Lord, and I definitely believe the Lord speaks and things like that. Sometimes I want to also include in that conversation an aspect of what do you want to do? What do you like doing? And that the Lord might be speaking through that as well. And so one of the questions that has kept me in it here is like, if there's a moment where I don't like working with high school kids, like I still get fired up to talk to these guys, like 16s, whatever. If that simmers or my interests go elsewhere, that's just always been there. So I'll be honest, like, these little punks in my neighborhood, they're riding their e-bikes and doing their wheelies and are punks at Starbucks and pour out all the sugar packets and like are just menaces. I'm not there right now. Like, I used to have that. I need to get a partner to help me with that. Okay. So like, I checked out, I love them, pray for them. I'll raise money for them, whatever. But like, I'm done, but I'm still there with high school kids. There's a fire inside of me with high school guys that love doing that. So that has kept me in it. And, but yeah, part of it is, because I like to, and I want to. And so as I've had other opportunities come away, and I've had a couple, I have really thought about like, well, what do I like doing? And this just sounds kind of selfish, but maybe the Lord sometimes speaks through my likes, as much as through prayer and like maybe other signals. Now I need counsel, because that could be selfish. I'm not just going to do the thing that's fun or that I like the most, but if there's something that like gives me life and I feel fully alive when I'm doing this, and I still feel that way when I'm talking to these guys. So I feel like what's that, Chariots of Fire? A lot of people won't know that one, but it's like he felt the Lord when he's like running. It's this old movie, and he's like, why do you run? And why are you committed to that? He's just like, I don't know. I feel the Lord when I run fast. And when I roll up to Pinnacle High School and other schools as well, but that's been where I do the majority of my direct ministry. I always like kind of get excited. Like not always, I'm not always like fired up, but like, I'm always like, who knows what the Lord will do? Like, I never regret going there. I regret a lot of other stuff, like putting on meetings, coming up with endless plans, getting ghosted on so many of my text messages from people, like no, like all that stuff. It just drives me nuts. And so if anyone out there is getting drove nuts, like getting ghosted all the time, people who should be responsible aren't, and all that, like I'm there. So my wife says, hey, if you're super grumpy in ministry, go to the school, because that's the thing. That's why you're in it. So for me, seeing a kid, especially a kid that just, needs the Lord, which is a lot of them, I just have the Lord's given me a big heart for that, and is just not really been able to like pull me away to move on. Also, one thing that does come with longevity is a lot of people get a little more flexibility in being able to, like, with their time. So things that took me a lot of time before are just more efficient. So whether it's preparing an event, preparing a message, doing a fundraiser, a lot of those, and I'm not on autopilot, I actually put quite a bit of work into those, but those took a lot more time back in the day. And so if you stick with it for a while and you've found some things that work, then you will have more flexibility. Now, the only thing that is not scalable is relationships. Like you can't, and that anything that's trying to scale relationships is probably not the right direction, even ministerially or generationally. Connection is never going to go out of, like vogue. Like we got to connect. Like there might be different ways to connect, but like you got to be you just got to be, so you can't scale relationships. That's just, you can, but that's just, I'm not going to be a part of it. And I don't think that's what the best ministry is. But you can scale other stuff. Like honestly, like, and I'm not here to sell, but like your resources could save people a lot of time so that they could spend more time relationally, because you and your team can put a lot of good work into excellent resources that could save someone 2, 5, 10 hours per week that then you could spend in direct ministry. So like that frees people up. And I have some of those. And you provide excellent things because no one else can spend time with those kids. No one else can show up to their game, give them a high five. What that stuff, no, that stuff's not scalable, but resources and finding things that work, you can redo them. And that is one of the for age stage ministries like middle school, high school, even college. You have people who come in and then they leave. So if you're like if you're a like senior pastor, like you'll have people who like, I'll be at the same church for 10, 15 years. If you started repeating things every 2 to 4 years, I would notice, like, didn't we just do this? Like I remember this in youth, in age stage ministries and in youth, children's ministry, youth ministry, even college ministry. Like you can repeat stuff and it can be good, and you can find stuff and just not repeat. You want to pray about it and all that, but you can have your bag, you can have your tool belt, and you can redeploy that a lot. And that can really free you up. And so I'm a big believer in using resources, reusing resources to be freed up so that we can spend relational time with people. And that's helped me a lot. And that has also helped me because on the side, yeah, I was able to get a lot of degrees and a PhD and write books and all that. And that's kept me in it too, because I have a nerdy part of my life, and I wouldn't have been able to really dig into that deep in the first probably 5 or 8 years of doing ministry. But once I was able to get these rhythms going, then I was able to get some time, and that provided me balance. So when I was sometimes wanting to beat my head against the wall in youth ministry stuff, I had another outlet for what the Lord, I think, has geared me for, that I could go and study, I could write, I could learn something, and and kind of bounce back and forth. And so that's actually given me a lot of longevity, like having this academic side that I've been able to do. But it's helped. It complements. Like I've been able to have more confidence in the type of ministry that we do because of improving my education. Yeah.
No, it's really good. It's really, really good. And since you mentioned your education, I know one of the things that you've studied is evangelism, which is
yeah.
And you also do it, right? You're not just studying it, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about some of the things that you're seeing with this generation that's important when it comes to evangelism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, the type of evangelism that I do is you go to where they're at, you build a relationship, you share the gospel in different ways. So Those mechanics, I'm pretty committed to, but they don't. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. The kids will be rolling on TikTok and hear something and get curious, or like there's all sorts of stuff, but it's going to end up needing to land where if we think about like the telos or the end goal is like they need to get plugged into a church. They need to know other Christians. They need to be in relationship with someone. And so evangelism, one of the metaphor, I have a book I wrote on evangelism. Here, let me see here. Evangelism for the care of souls. Yeah. Anyway, like
go get it.
One of the metaphors that I use in there is an Amazon delivery person. And so no one, like, I don't know the Amazon delivery people that come to my door. They just deliver the package, right? And so evangelism is taking a package, if you will, which is the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, and delivering it, like go somewhere with it. Like they take it from whatever, the Amazon facility, and they get it in their car and they drop it off at my house, right? And the main goal, like the only time I notice when there's a delivery driver or like I kind of think, who was that, is when it's damaged, when it's dented or the box is open or something like that, They're doing a good job when they just like kind of deliver and get out of the way. And so as much as I like building relationships, coaching basketball, knowing these guys, I got to deliver the gospel now in like creative ways, So I like a lot of us will, at least in the type of work I do, will build a bridge and not cross it. That's one of the things I really loved about when I saw you minister in classrooms at lunchtime and things like that. You would ask about, what do you guys think about this topic? Usually it's a very interesting or provocative topic. But then at the end, you would say, hey, here's how I think about it, and here's how Christians with this worldview think about it. And you would walk them through creation, fall, sin, redemption, restoration, right? Like I saw you do that multiple times. And, I'm trying to think right now, like I think of a specific guy that's definitely not Christian, actually comes from a different religious background. We played basketball for me. He doesn't play anymore because he didn't make the team. He likes to go on runs because he wants to stay fit. And, I asked him, I was like, hey, what's big in your head right now? And I said, what can I be praying for you? What did he say? He said, health and wealth, baby, health and wealth. And then he was dead serious. Like he was telling me on the run that he wants to get like really into fashion. And so he's going to start collecting like, one little piece at a time to build up his fashion, and I tried to like find a way to kind of walk through, bro, that's not going to bring, like, it's fun. It's a cool hobby, but that's not going to bring, I think you want something out of that. That's not going to deliver. And let me tell you, I've gone down that road and I want to tell you what delivers, And so evangelism I believe is, it's the announcement of the good news of Jesus Christ, and we are deliverers of it, but we got to go to people, and we are around people. So what am I noticing? Man, I just really believe in building in-person relationships. Especially with AI, even like as a professor, one of the things that we got to retool is like on these assignments and all this stuff, like it's got to be in class. If you want them to learn, you got to engage with them there, like they're just gonna, if they just need information, they can get it somewhere else. I gotta engage with them. Like on the first day, this is before AI, what's your major? Where you're from? And I find out a little about like their hobbies and dreams. And like, I'm taking big notes for 40 kids on the first day because I'm thinking all semester long, how can I connect this content to where they're at? I can't just, I have all my lectures set because I've taught forever, but I got to connect the dots. And you can only do that if you know people. And I think that's one of the things about evangelism is you got to know the person. You got to be listening real hard. A lot of that in that book, a lot of books, you would probably have a lot of resources. You got to learn how to listen and ask questions. Ask the second question, ask the third question, rephrase what they said. Are you saying this? Like I think a lot of people aren't listening to them. And so figuring out like how to be super curious in a friendly, like way. No one's doing that for them. Like, with my guy on my run, like, oh, why do you want to get into fashion? No one's asking him that,
Yeah.
Like, and he still wants to hang out with me. Why would, it's weird. I'm like, why is this dude that's like, he's kind of cool dude. I'm like, why does he want to talk to you? Because I know him and I'm asking questions about like, why does that matter to you? And so I don't know, that was kind of all over the place, but evangelism, we just connect. And then I think like I saw you do it great. Figure out how, whatever that connection is at the right moment, there's a connection somehow to creation, God's good creation, that we're creating God's good image, that the world and us are fallen, that Christ has, redeemed us, and that he wants to restore the world to right. And man, it's exciting. Like if you want to be a part of it, like thinking through that lens is always useful.
No, it's good. That's really good. It makes me think, man, like, and it ties to one of your other books, The Good News of Our Limits.
Yeah.
I feel like youth ministry right now is I feel like it has to get smaller. And what I mean by that is these kids are so in need of real relationships with people, right? And this desire to be known. Like I feel like we've almost got to take more time and more care with these young people now. And so as a consequence, I think that means we can actually really reach less of them. You know what I'm saying? And so it's going to take more of us building more relationships with fewer students to really go to the depths that we need to go to share the gospel, and then not just share the gospel, but like help them grow in their understanding of what it means to follow Jesus, and then go replicate and do the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we're in that book, in The Good News of Our Limits, I talk about the sociology that's related to how many people that you can know. And there's like something called like Dunbar's number, and it follows like, it's like actually kind of models like the types of relationships that Jesus had. There's like a 2 or 3 group, there's 12, there's 40, there's 150, and so on and so forth. And these groups of people in different ways. And, like at the school I'm at, there's 2,600 kids. And I go, okay, we've got like 5 volunteers. They might on their best day really know like 5 or 10 kids each. Like they know a lot of names, but so you go, okay, let's just say on the whatever, let's say it's 10. I got 5 leaders. At best, we're gonna reach 50 kids, and we're probably not gonna do that. It's probably, but I'll just say the number 50 out of 2,600 kids. That's 2% of the school, and like that's when we're killing it. Like when we're killing it, more likely we're going to reach half that. So that looks, in the world's ways, that looks like failure. Another thing that I see is like the Lord works through lots of different types of ministries, and obviously Paul teaches us that no matter what the motives are, if the gospel is preached, we're to rejoice. So if kids are hearing the gospel, I'll put up with a lot of things that aren't my style, not my approach, whatever. Like I want the good news. So if I hear the gospel getting preached, man, it's an answer to prayer. I want all 2,600 of those kids. But like one thing that I've seen in my community, a lot of schools, is confusing revival with pizza. like you can get a lot of people to show up if you provide enough food. Okay, I don't want to get anyone in trouble here, but like it could be that you feed a lot of people and you'd be like, our numbers are crazy, it's wild, But like, if you want to really know if the Lord's up, to stop serving food and see if they keep coming. And like, stop serving food and see if they keep coming, because probably what you'll see is if you have a relational connection. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I love when the gospel's preached, like I'll donate to more pizza. Like I want kids to hear the good news of Jesus. So I praise God. But also like if the food is gone, what's left? And so I think that maybe you need to experiment from time to time, and it's probably, relationships and so I think, I think, smaller, like as far as numerically, Young Life used to have this phrase, every kid, everywhere, for eternity. And I knew something bothered me about it. Like, I like how it kind of sounds big and it's exciting, but it was also super discouraging because, like, I can't know every kid at my high school, everywhere, like I'm only at one school, like, or at least my direct ministry, whatever. And then for eternity, like, I actually literally have no control over how these kids respond to Jesus, if I even able to. So it's like, that is actually really discouraging. So instead of like every kid, everywhere, for eternity, I was like, how about I get to know like 5 to 10 kids at one school for maybe 2 years, and I'll try to do the best I can with that. And that's if I'm killing it. And I was like, I could get people to sign up for that, but it doesn't sound that cool. But I think that's what they need. That's what they want. Like,
That's good.
that's what I feel called to. And then if you look at, there's old books on this, master plan of evangelism and things like that. Jesus focused on few for the benefit of many. You look at his ministry, he had a different type of ministry to different sizes of groups. And I think that what's going on culturally with social media and all sorts of other generational stuff, which you are one of the experts I look to on that, is they need direct connection. And our Lord provided a model for that in scriptures that we can see there. And so, but I'll be honest, like, that's hard work. And you don't, like, if I pour myself and really focus on like 3 to 5 guys, I don't know how that's going to go. Because first off, if it's 5 guys, 4 of them are going to ghost me 80% of the time because they don't read their text messages or whatever. It gets buried, right? So like, even if it's a good friendship, like, that's just how things work these days. So, and then it's hard for me to not take that personally because I'm human, right? And I feel like, what's going on. But like, the results feel like a huge gamble when you focus on a smaller group of people, because the results are more obvious of what's working or not working or whatever. When you have a big group, like say I do an event and I put a lot of work into it and 100 or 500 people are there, and like, it'll probably look impressive even if we don't know what happened. But when you do it on the small scale and you have a discipleship group or a group of guys that you want to meet with, it's 4 or 5 guys and 3 of them don't show up, it instantly feels like a failure. And you go, maybe we should just stop this, So like, on the small scale, like, it's harder. I think it takes a deeper commitment for that. Like, I coach basketball, right? So like, the hard thing, I'm a taller guy, you're a big guy, but like, I coach post players and all that. It's intimidating to do a post move and do a layup because everyone expects you to make it all the time. Of course you should make a layup. It's so close, right? So that's why one of the many reasons why kids love shooting threes. No one really, if you miss a lot of threes, they expect that. But you miss a layup or 2, everyone thinks you're terrible at basketball. And so people are doing so like, everyone loves to shoot threes because failure is normal. Like, no big deal. I was 2 for 10 or whatever. Like, if you're 2 for 10 on layups, people think you're trash, But like, layups are hard too. I don't know if you've ever played basketball, but like, there's a lot of things going on in there, but it's more obvious. And so I feel like big events I like big events. Young Life is known for big camps, big events. So like, there's a place for them, but like, our success is like a little bit more mysterious with those. And on the small scale, it stands out a lot more. So I think it takes a higher commitment for a youth leader to do the type of ministry that probably we really need to be doing to this generation. But it's going to take a lot of commitment from like the church and from ministries and from church leaders, from the, elder boards and church leadership boards to go, the results might not look as exciting, but like this, we're going to commit to a type of ministry rather than an outcome. Like, we want to commit to these principles. Can you like be there with me for maybe 2 or 3 years if we commit to these principles? Because I can't guarantee they'll look exciting, or they won't have the results of the church down the street that does these really big events. Which, praise God for those. I'm not here to, belittle it, because I do believe that the Lord works through those things, and but like the vast majority of us out here, when you look at what's the average size of a youth group and all, it's small, and people don't talk about that, and they see the megachurch groups, and God bless the megachurch. My family's been blessed by megachurch youth ministries. Praise God. The vast majority of us are not in those systems, and we're grinding, and it feels like it's so hard. And we're not the group down the street. We don't got the resources or the numbers or a lot of other things. But like, man, I'm just like, those are my heroes, the ones that dig in. My youth leader was a boring dentist that's not cool at all.
Wow.
Not flashy at all. He's a dentist. Didn't know much about sports or anything. A faithful man of God that knew my name, cared about me, was really interested in me. changed my life. The Lord used him. He would be a terrible, flashy, cool youth group leader. Does not have any of the things that, yeah, anyway.
No, it's good. That's really good.
If you've got those, use those too. I'm not, if like, look at you. I mean, you're cool, so but you're committed to relationships. Yeah, no, dude, look, bro. When we walk on campus, everyone's up dabbing you up. Like, hey, what's up? And I'm like standing there like, yeah, I'm here too. Everyone dabs you up. Let's be honest. So if you got it, use it. I'm not telling people to dial it down. Just, there's a lot of us that it's harder.
No, it's good, man. I think about that often. The faithful women who are just, nobody knows who they are. They're in their neighborhoods. They're in their communities, serving the kids on the block, been serving at their church for 20, 30, 40 years, investing in youth, and like the youth love them, they're not trying to be something that they're not. They're not trying to say things that they don't think or feel or believe, but they're just faithfully there for those young people, investing in them and serving them. That's good, man. Question for you. Have you seen a difference when this generation becomes engaged in evangelism? Like in the time that you've been on campus, I'm sure you've probably seen some young people that have really got on fire for the Lord, as we say, right? And have really gone after it. Is there a uniqueness to that? Do you find that they tend to reach more of their friends, pull more people in, or is it still pretty similar in the sense that they just kind of connect with a few, and it's kind of the way we would expect it to be?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say two things. One is sometimes when I felt like I'll hear a kid that's been a part of our ministry for a bunch of years and they'll give a testimony at some event. And I'll be waiting. I'll be like, okay, they're telling their story. It's come to the part where I met them and I discipled them. And like, I hate to say it, but like selfishly, I'm like, here's the part where I'm going to get some props. And hey, I just want to thank Sean for all those meals and time and all that. And I'm waiting. And then they go in and they're like, my buddy, Jimmy, he brought me to the group and we had so many good times. And I'm like, and it often is their peers that they remember, like I give props to my guy, Dick Mason, because he was the Young Life leader, the dentist guy, but it was my buddy Micah that was the one that initially invited me and all that. And so definitely peer to peer ministry is usually the first kind of layer of evangelism and discipleship. So and then the second thing, so I would say, yes, like I want to say two things. One thing I wanted to say was we want to equip young Christians to reach out to their friends and show them how to do it, which is actually pretty simple. It's usually just through friendship, genuine friendship, and being a good friend. So there's that. Big believer in that, and that's a huge part of what we do. The second thing I want to say is, I don't know what you're seeing, but at least for a hot second here, it's kind of, for whatever, good, bad, I don't know what it is, but I'll just say it's cool sometimes to be Christian. Like I've never seen so many kids wearing big cross necklaces at PacSun and whatever. I see these kids wearing shirts that you can buy shirts at the mall or what. There's not even malls these days, but like I saw one of my basketball players and he was wearing a Bible verse shirt, and I thought, he's not a Christian. Why? Maybe he got, is he? Know this guy. And I literally I took a picture and did the Google search for where is this shirt from? And it was from PacSun or something, a store like that, and wearing God gear. I don't know if it's like this. I can just tell you in my community, that has not been a thing. And in the last couple years, 2 or 3 years, for whatever reasons, but just the fact is, wearing God gear and wearing crosses and talking about faith is a popular thing currently, a little bit. I don't know how long it'll last or what the fruit of it is. I don't know. But it's probably I think that people work. Yeah, the Lord evangelistically works through relationships. Who spends the most time with Him? Probably, well, their family, Lord willing, but their friends, the people that they're around, especially in high school, it's going to be their friends. So there's a huge opportunity. I often will ask students that are a part of our leadership team to say, okay, we're going to spend about 6 minutes, because you have 6 classes per day. The first minute, I want you to think literally where the Lord placed you in your first hour class. And I want you to think about the person, literally the person that's in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you, behind you. And I want you to think of all of their names. I want you to spend a minute right now praying for them. Good. Now go to your second hour class and do the same thing. And I'll lead our leadership group through it. And I'll be like, look, it's not by chance that the Lord put you in that seat. You are a missionary. But just look how God might be moving. You don't need to invite them to stuff all the time or force God conversations, but look. And when I explain that to them, they're like, eyes are open and they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I'll be like, yeah, just start paying attention to the things that they're talking about or that you notice, or especially kids that maybe don't get a lot, just a lot of love or whatever, friendship. They don't have that. You're there for a reason. I'll walk them through that and they'll get excited. And I say that God clothes and it's kind of cool right now. It's easier right now, at least in my community, than ever to say, hey, would you want to come to a Christian event? Right now, that's not the hardest. There's been other eras when that would have been they might have had some choice words or just be a whatever and walk away. But right now, there's a little bit of favor for whatever reason. I might not even like some of the reasons why, but it's a fact right now that you can kind of get away with talking about God a little bit in my community.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, obviously I'm here in Texas now, and it's interesting because it feels like our students are actually having more trouble, and maybe that's based on where we are. I actually just found out that where I live is one of the most diverse cities in America, which okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Religiously, socioeconomically, ethnically, all those things come together to make it incredibly diverse. And I think to your point, once again, right now being Christian is quite popular. We're seeing, a lot of people out, celebrities and different types of people rocking Christian things, talking about Christianity. I mean, we're seeing, Wes Huff on, all the podcasts, you know what I mean? Which is cool. It's great. Somebody's out there. That Cliff guy,
apologetics.
You know what I mean? Yeah, all of that. It's all everywhere. You know what I mean? But on the flip side of that, which I think will help me transition to the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, is your book here on slavery.
Okay. Yeah, people would be like, "Oh yeah, evangelism, limits," and then wait, what? He wrote that book? Yeah, what? yeah, I did.
And I think the reason is because obviously we've got all these different conversations floating around. We've got the Christian nationalism conversation floating around. We've got the racial tensions in our culture, and I think depending on where you sit, depending on where you go to church, depending on who you're in relationship with, you'll have different perspectives on this conversation, right? But I wanted to tap into this book that you wrote here, and I think it's really cool because you point out some things that I was wrestling with and struggling with when I was in seminary, being told, hey, listen to these people, but don't listen to these people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Read this, but don't read that. And the reason you can't read that is because it's dangerous, or because it's this, or because it's that. And,
sure.
Yeah, man, I think what you have written here is a really important, valuable contribution to the conversation. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to just tell us a little bit more about this, what's in it, and why you wrote it, and why this might be helpful for youth leaders to dive into a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So my academic expertise is early evangelicalism, which is the early 1700s. So when people started talking about being born again, and it started what's called the First Great Awakening, and I was really curious about how people preach the gospel and how that's related to soteriology and regeneration and some systematic theology concepts. So that's what my PhD was on. And the key people in that conversation in that era are John Wesley, George Whitefield, and Jonathan Edwards. Those are the three that are the most important. And so I'm a scholar of all of those guys. And my initial interest was about how they thought about conversion. And so I have a book about that called Born Again, the Evangelical Theology of Conversion. So that one's really boring. It was my PhD. It's tough to read. Don't read it. So one of the things that when I did that project, and I continue to write as a scholar on all those people and of that era, which is like the 1700s and early evangelicalism, and what was distinctive about them. Is that that was also the 100 years when, at the beginning, in like the year 1700, there were very few Christians who would have rejected the practice and institution of slavery, and 100 years later, 1800, there were some. There was some things starting to change, and so I was curious about that story. And as it turns out, those three people, Wesley, Whitefield, and Edwards, are important in that story. And so that's the rationale why I wrote about them. I had some lingering questions and problems and difficulties, and no one had really documented that. And so that's what that book does. It's a book of history. It won a history book award from the Gospel Coalition or something. So it's really a book of history, but the point that is more relevant for, well, there's two things. You asked about, like, are there certain people that we should listen to and not listen to, and we get warned. I can talk about that if you want. I can come back to that. But maybe the thing I'd like to mention right now is that in studying that, there's a great temptation in evangelism that these men faced, which was to think that we can control salvation. And this is only accelerated into the history of evangelicalism, thinking literally that we have control over people's lives. So once they started preaching the new birth, these gentlemen, there's a subtle temptation to think that that we control salvation. Like, if I preach this in a certain way and I call for decision and other things that are part and parcel of kind of the evangelical experience, it can go to your head and feel like, you know what? I've got some power over this, whether or not, these people get saved or not, if I present the message a certain way. And so what people don't talk about is that temptation in evangelism, thinking it hinges on me or my delivery. And one of the things that's just very tragic is that George Whitefield helped turn the state of Georgia from a colony that was the only colony that in which slavery was illegal, and he helped with others petition Parliament to flip it in order that he could fund his orphanage. He was having a hard time fundraising, which we all know about that. Well, just imagine thinking, oh, I know what I'll do. I'm going to, flip this colony so I can enslave people to be able to pay for essentially my missionary work. And so I cover that in the book. But the crazy thing is, like, I'm not confronted with that specific temptation right now. The temptation I have is, what are things that I am tempted to do, lines that I would cross that might create results quicker, not at God's speed or at God's leading, but are wrong. And those temptations are there. Like, I'm an adult. I'm pretty, I've seen, I could talk a young person into all sorts of things. I could try to create emotional experiences. I could do all that. And God's not opposed to to emotion, to thinking through things, through sound reasoning. All these things are fine. But, like, I think evangelicals need to be really aware of power dynamics. I mean, like, we've been really bad. And then this manifested later. I'm not a scholar of, like, modern evangelicalism. I don't really associate a lot or identify a lot with modern evangelicalism, because what's happened, well, many things, but like the seed of power going to their head and into their methodology in early evangelicalism manifested into modern evangelicalism, where people use it for a lot of other purposes that are not related to the gospel and not related to God's purposes in the world. But they just know that there's incredible power when certain people appear to have more power because of their message or their connection to God, as if, like, they're God. And so, yeah. I mean, the takeaway for a youth leader on that book, unless they're really interested in the history, is I would just really encourage youth leaders to be patient and faithful, rather than trying to manipulate, press harder than they need to. It just takes incredible patience to do quality ministry. The speed of the Holy Spirit's mysterious. Sometimes this, and I talk about that in my evangelism book, but the speed of the Spirit is really different. Sometimes you walk up and there's in Mark 5, there's the Jesus rolls up on the Gerasene demoniac. That guy's in a chaos moment and has a change, like, quick, right? It's occasionally we walk into these moments where there's a powerful change, like boom. But that's not normally how the Lord works. A lot of times it takes years. We don't know that guy's story before that. Like, who knows how the Lord was working in his life leading up to that. But yeah, I think that being really aware of our expectations and methodologies, like doing things quickly, I would rather us commit to patience and not trying to force things, or yeah, just being aware of power dynamics is a really big
good.
temptation for people in the evangelical world or in evangelism. Yeah.
No, it's really good. I like that. I think too, one of the things I was thinking about is obviously with this generation being so open to conversations about these different types of issues. Like I've had conversations with in my youth group where students have come in and started talking about racism, systemic oppression, all those different types of things, and just being informed and being able to have those conversations, like knowing the types of things that have happened in our history as a church, being
Yeah.
able to own those things, but then also speak to the reality of what actually is true according to the scripture, I think is really important. Because this generation wants to talk about these things. They want to have those hard conversations. They want to engage in the difficult topics. And they're having those conversations with their friends. They're sending each other memes. They're sending each other, TikToks and Instagram videos. And they're getting their information on these things from those places, which oftentimes it's just plain misinformation. It's not even like partially good. It's just garbo. You know what I mean? And so
Yep.
I think for us to be able to talk about these things in informed ways is really helpful and important, man.
I mean, that's a snapshot, that book is, of the most famous Christians being dead wrong about something. And we only knew in retrospect. Right now, there are very famous Christians that are dead wrong about God's purposes in the world. And time will show. Like, we'll know. The next generations will be able to look back and say, I don't know why everyone, but, so if you, yeah, that book shows that we made a lot of mistakes. We need to own up to that, and just own. That's why it's called ownership. Like we need to own up to the heritage that many of us inherited. But yeah, and then also be aware right now of things that we're going to be wrong. We're going to show to be wrong, especially the people who have the most power. Yeah, got to be tested against the scriptures.
That's good. So I'm making this a tradition to end. If you were in front of a room of 50 youth pastors right now, doing ministry in hard places, how would you encourage them? If you had 2 minutes to encourage them, what would you say to them? And then can you pray to finish us out?
I would let them know that my life was changed by youth ministers, and that like I would just let them know that their labor in the Lord is not in vain. They don't need to do this forever, but while the Lord is calling them to it, lean into it, be faithful. Don't be overly attached to the outcomes. For sure you're going to have setbacks. For sure you're going to get ghosted, and events are going to be stressful and they're not going to go right. If you're going to want to feel good about something, just like measure against faithfulness. Just ask yourself, are you being faithful? Are you doing the best that you can to pray, to be connected to people? And I guarantee that if you can commit to faithful practices and don't get too distracted by the outcomes, that you will be blessed down the line as you look back. I think that you'll see fruit. Some of the fruit that you're planting right now is seeds, and it's going to take a long time, especially with young people. You just don't know. And I've been at this for 25 years, and some of the seeds that grew up really fast, the quick fruit sometimes I've seen has not worked out. It's often the slow fruit that lasts. Pour yourself, disciple people, like ask leadership questions like they asked of me. Pour in and ask and try to really love and help, and don't be attached too much to the quick fruit. Just like I am a testimony to people pouring into me more in depth, and I am just want to encourage them that there is a compounding interest on return on investment, on long-term investment. And so whatever it is, if it's you're going to be involved with this for another year or two, or who knows, maybe longer, to be faithful to God, that when you put your head down on the pillow, don't evaluate yourself on how many people came to something or whatever. Just ask yourself, have you been faithful? And the answer is not always going to be fully yes, but try to work yourself to a place where you're like, Lord, I did what as best as I could, what you asked of me. And there's a couple things I want to do a little bit better, but like you are going to be blessed because like the Father says to us, like, well done, good and faithful servant. Like our job is to be faithful. Now, obviously we can only do that through the power of God, through the Holy Spirit. But I would just encourage him because like youth ministry is a whole bunch of discouragement, and seeing other people seemingly be much more successful because we're looking at their posts. We know the other ministry that has this and they're only posting their best stuff online. It looks like they're killing it. And so we're just constantly, I know I often feel so discouraged, and just share my battle wounds. I just say, hang in there. You don't have to do it forever, but forever the Lord has you in this. Don't be distracted by the outcomes. Be committed to being faithful and being able to look Lord in the eyes and say, I did I did the best I could, or I'm trying to do the best I can. And I just say, keep going on that path as long as you can, and then move on if you get called away from it, and that's okay. Yeah.
That's good. Pray for us, bro.
Yeah. Lord, I just thank you that somewhere out there right now, there's someone that was like my leader 25 years ago, who maybe in this last week or month or two met a young man that didn't have a dad, whose mom, was working real hard. And I just pray, Lord, that you would help those youth leaders, men and women, to remember students' names, Lord, to give them the attention and care that maybe they're getting from other places, but they're going to get through ministry, Lord. And I pray that you just empower them to find a couple tasks of faithfulness, Lord, whether it's remembering names or asking follow-up questions or remembering details, or praying and getting a scripture to text them or to share with them. Lord, I just pray that you would empower those that are listening right now to be able to do those type of tasks without any attachment to whether or not the kids are receptive or it works out, but instead to just be a really grateful planter. I pray you would equip them to just plant. And because we know that Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God makes it grow. Lord, we know you grow. You will do the growth. So I pray that you would help them to plant and water, Lord. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for your time today, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Chop it up a little bit. Yeah. Like we always say, it's the beginning of the conversation, not the end. Questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find us. Hit us up. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.